I think that during summertime, my creativity is often at its best. The air is warm and everything is alive, and if you slow down and just pay attention to things that you wouldn't normally, you'll find these little moments of beauty that I think a lot of people just take for granted. Maybe it's the way that the late evening light shines through leaves, or the way that bright, unexpected colors from the wings of a butterfly or a bird appear out of nowhere. I try to just slow down and imagine these things and see them as more than maybe what they are. And by that I mean that there's always some sort of story behind all these little moments that people might even forget that they saw earlier in the day. And I think it's so important to try to capture this. I've just kind of finished sketching out two new miniature paintings, and I decided to go pretty simple with the composition and just have like one focal point with butterfly and just really, again, zero in on detail, which is what I usually do when I'm working on botanicals and still life sort of compositions. But I wanted to do a set because these are so small, and this other one that I'm kind of finished sketching out, I just have, I guess, hesitations about it. It's kind of, in a way, just way more of like a mini landscape, like maybe you can kind of see, but the central part is going to be like a little lake or water, and I don't feel like they go super well as a set, and I want them to match more and have more of like a similar theme, and probably have like sharing subjects, like having another butterfly on this one. So as it happens, you know, if you're just not feeling a direction for a piece, then you kind of have to just start over. And it's better to start over at this stage than start painting and just, you know, forcing it and feeling like it's not working, because I've been there. And I think that this particular composition might be really nice as like a miniature landscape, but I might try to experiment with that like on cotton paper or something like that. I think for these, I really wanted something that was like zoomed in and kind of blown up and having detail and stuff. So back to the drawing board, I guess. So as I'm erasing here, it's definitely not going to be perfect, but that's okay because it's just meant for like guidelines as I build the painting and the paint layers and stuff. I just need to kind of get most of these lines off so that I can kind of see what I'm doing here, and then I'll just redraw my basic plan over top, and yeah, it should work and not be too big of a deal. Basically, I use Conte pencil, which holds up much better with the oil paint. I mean, I do spray it to fix it and make sure that like the you know, paint doesn't take it off, but Conte is also really hard to erase. In my opinion, it's still kind of the best for an undersketch. But yeah, it's a pain to erase. As I come more into my own as an artist, I find myself less concerned about making something huge and eye-catching, and drawn more towards finding the grandeur in small little things that kind of draw you in. To me, it's in the miniature and immersive world of natural places that I usually find all these visual stories to tell. And there's something so focused and interesting about small, beautiful things painted in small spaces. I guess it's my way of recreating the feeling of discovering a tiny, simple beauty in the world, like a butterfly in light, for others. And I think these small canvases invite people to search and discover details for themselves. I've always wanted to work with gold leaf, and I've never worked with the real stuff. I kind of want this to just have like, I don't know, like a sparkling kind of evanescence look. So I'm gonna try laying it in certain parts that I've marked out, like where's the light is gonna be. We'll see how it goes. It was relatively expensive, so I hope that I don't totally mess it up. Okay, so first I had to lay down the adhesive glue, and it was kind of interesting. It starts out as a light blue, and then you paint over the places you're going to put the gold, and you let it dry until it's clear, and that's when I guess you need to put the gold leaf on. I'm a little bit nervous about how the gold leafing is going to actually go because I know it's like super thin and slippery and hard to work with. So part of the reason why I wanted to experiment with gold leaf as accents in these tiny oil paintings is not just for its like vibrance and its reflective qualities, but because historically it has kind of like a lot of weight culturally. It has a lot of spiritual significance, and usually in religious art it's used to create a feeling of sacredness. And to use gold gilt on something is to make it valuable and important, both literally and figuratively. And so to use these accents in these paintings, I think it's going to subconsciously catch people's eyes and kind of communicate, again, like the beauty and the awe in just the tiniest pieces and parts of our world. It just might help people kind of slow down and untangle all the detail in these little paintings, and maybe remind them to look for the artistry and design in the natural world around us a little more often. So as I expected, yeah, it was pretty tricky to work with. The first sheet was really slippery and went all awry. So I kind of improvised a little bit. I don't know if everything was exactly the way a professional gilder would do, but got through it, and I'm pretty pleased with the results. Working with real gold leaf it's really pretty. It has just a different look than the imitation stuff. So I'm pleased with it. It's not perfect, but I think it's going to work for what I have in mind. So aside from actually applying the gold leaf, painting on it was a little tricky. I did my best not to paint too much over the leaf and to use it sparingly, so I had to really plan ahead and not put the gold in places I didn't need it, because it is actually pretty slippery. I mean, it feels like painting on metal. So you'll see later on that I'm really careful with my edges, and getting the gold leaf edge and the edge of the painting to kind of blend was a little challenging. On top of that, I had to think strategically, since the gold was going to be my light source, about how the leaves and the subject of the butterfly were going to allow light to reflect through it. So I really had to kind of think about these things during my color blocking stage. But even here, I definitely did not get everything right, and actually had to course correct quite a bit throughout the painting. I took quite a few walks just like this one in the evening time where the light was golden, just to observe exactly how light was interacting with leaves and that high contrast. And it really helped to translate that into the painting to make it feel real. But you know, despite its size, just like any of my paintings, especially my botanicals, it takes so much time. And starting a new project is always a bit daunting, especially during these dreaded middle stages where I'm just figuring out where everything is going to go and how to bring things into focus from this messier sort of blob color blocking stage. And it always gives me a sense of is this going to turn out exactly how I see it in my head? And I just want to get to the point where I know it is going to turn out well. And yeah, it never comes quite fast enough. So you see here that I'm actually going into pretty fine detail with my little sharp brush, and that's because I'm working on a layer that it's furthest away from the foreground, and I need to kind of get those details in before I move into the other larger shapes that are actually in the foreground. It just works better with layering. I won't have to recreate those shapes in the foreground if anything bleeds over. So it's kind of just like the order of operations. I'm really bringing that layer into detail, and then I'll be able to move on to the next layers. And that's kind of how you have to think about building these paintings, is in like, you know, the background and foreground. Even though this particular painting is in such short focus, you still have backgrounds and foregrounds. In this process, I actually ended up repainting these leaves in the foreground like 2 or 3 times because they just weren't rendering quite correctly or realistically with the light. And it just gave me a sense of uncertainty at this stage. And honestly, if you haven't noticed, uncertainty is probably one of my biggest challenges. And so I do go back and remind myself about trusting the process because I've done this so many times. But you know what it is? It's not exactly trusting the process, but slowly trusting yourself and the fact that you have these skills that you have developed and are developing, and that if you put enough time into it, you are going to get through it because, again, you're trusting your own expertise and your own ability to learn, recalibrate, and rework things. And I think for me, I just get frustrated with the amount of time that takes when things don't always go to plan. But, you know, that's okay, because even for something that you've been doing for a long time, you are constantly learning, and that's just part of the craft. I hope you enjoyed my painting process and my thoughts so far, but I hope that you decide to subscribe to this channel so that you can see what this piece and the sister piece looks like in final form.